Okay, we're here. Alexander Lawrence, the Portable Infinite New Noise radio show, and we're talking to John Bazz of the Blasters today. I mean, the Blasters are. I consider the Blasters one of the, you know, like there's LA bands. I mean, a lot of people like come to LA, and then there's a band, people that are born here. I was born in Montebello, and these guys were born in, most of them in Downey. And there's like the Doors are an LA band. Arthur Lee Love is an LA band. You know, the Byrds, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band is from Long Beach. My favorite LA band of all time is probably Canned Heat.
Right.
And they're and that has a little bit to do, like, Blasters probably have more to do with Canned Heat than rockabilly, maybe, like in a way, because they're both kind of like more bluesy, and so like and I'm about 10 years younger than a lot of the people in the Blasters, and so like I kind of but I became aware of them because when I was 15 in 1979, like the LA punk scene, the Orange County punk scene was happening. And that kind of fizzled out after a couple of years. I mean, in the 70s, you had to be like on a label as a band, you had to be on a label. And then bands that played like clubs like the Troubadour, they were like cover bands and stuff. So I saw a lot of bands in the early days, like Vince Neil. When I was in junior high, I saw him in a cover band called Rock Candy. If you weren't signed, you couldn't play like original music. Did you play in a lot of cover bands back in the 70s or do that route?
No, I didn't do that. And in fact, none of us did. We pretty much played the music that we collected, like old blues music.
Yeah.
Both the Alvin brothers were avid record collectors. Our drummer, Bill Bateman, a record collector as well. And when Gene Taylor joined the band, he was just an amazing record collector. He had come from the Canned Heat to the Blasters by way of the James Harmon band. But so I'm like the only guy that doesn't collect records.
So did you, how did you find it, like getting shows though? Like, did you have to like set up your own shows, or?
We'd play anything and everywhere, like talent contests or God, we did stuff when we were in high school. We would do whatever high school event was happening. We'd try and get on the bill, or parties,
like house parties. So
house party, never any pay, but it was when the 70s, late 70s punk rock and that whole explosion occurred. It seemed like people were very receptive of anything new and not mainstream. So we didn't exactly fit in, but we fit in. We were playing rockabilly we weren't really just rockabilly. We jumped on that bandwagon, in fact, just to get a little attention and to get on Rolling Rock Records, which was a rockabilly label. But the whole vibe back in the late 70s was, if music was good and aggressive and had some kind of edge to it, which rockabilly had for sure, that was rebel music from the 50s, then people were responsive to it.
Yeah, I found this record in the Blue Cats. They were like in English.
Yeah.
Because like in England had sort of because like Elvis never went to England. They kind of had like there was a lot of things that happened. England had like this kind of renaissance in the 70s, and they kind of hooked up with the Teddy Boys, and so and then and a lot of those guys for the first time, and Gene Vincent was really popular in England, and a lot of these bands were kind of like more like Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran than they were what the Blasters were kind of into. And and then there was that, and then there was also, you mentioned punk rock, and there was a connection with the Blasters and like the whole Madame Wong's Hong Kong Cafe. That's where you were kind of playing a lot, like back in 79.
We were so a lot of the shows that we did in the very early years were playing on bills with other bands. We would open for like anybody and everybody. Ray Campy, Asleep at the Wheel, X, the Go-Go's, and a lot Souls. A lot of bands were playing at Madame Wong's and the Hong Kong Cafe and Club 88. Bigger bands like at the Whiskey A Go-Go and the Starwood. So it was, and we fit right in. So it didn't take us long to get, and then we had a pretty good following and reputation. So it wasn't too long after opening for these bands that we were headlining the same venues and drawing a good audience.
Yes, well, it seemed like punk rock. I mean, it kind of had its like 2 or 3 year window, and then like the Go-Go's got popular out of the LA scene.
Yeah.
And it kind of about 82 it became sort of more hardcore, and then people, and then other, like there was like a goth scene, there was a rockabilly scene, there was dance music, there was some bands stopped calling themselves punk rock and said, hey, oh, we're new wave bands now. And it seemed like, and then the Blasters were on Slash Records, which was kind of, I mean, we before that you thought of the Germs and Fear, and then they start, people started getting tired of just all the violence surrounding the LA punk scene, so they kind of were like, okay, what else is going on? Well, there's like Motorhead, there's like different, like it seemed like things were exploding or changing, especially around 82, 83, and the Blasters kind of fit in. It's like, oh, here's this great band. I mean, and what I was saying before, like LA bands, I always think of purely LA bands. I think of the Blasters, and I think of Los Lobos, and they kind of exploded around that time. And people, they weren't, I mean, you guys weren't really rockabilly, you were blues based, and Los Lobos was kind of like a heritage band. I mean, now that we got the Ken Burns country music thing, I mean, we all know the whole history going back like 100 years now. Like we didn't really know that in 80, we didn't know, maybe we knew Haskell Adson, or my dad's record collection, Hoyt Axton or something, or Johnny Cash, or now there's books about the Bakersfield Sound, and so we knew about that. But I mean, the Blasters just seemed like, oh, here's a great band, here's a great live band, they can play, punk rock. Some of them weren't that talented as musicians, they would,
No, but that was the beauty of it. You didn't really have to know how to play an instrument. Listen to the Germs. I mean, that music's pretty chaotic, but some pretty good players came out of that band and went on to do some things. But you're right. When you think of LA bands, they all had to have to get gigs. You had to be on a record label. That wasn't really the case back when this whole scene was exploding, but everyone did eventually end up on a label. And Slash, thank God for them, they were a great stepping stone for a lot of great bands like Lobos, Blasters, X, and Germs, and I think even Jeffrey Lee Pierce's group.
Yeah, the Gun Club. That's what I was going to mention, the Gun Club, because he was also born in Montebello, and I mean,
Okay.
Jeffrey Lee Pierce was kind of like on some weird thing. I mean, I think there wasn't really an acceptance in New York, or I mean, in LA. He kind of got big in New York and England first, and then people just didn't know what to make of this guy. He's like dressing up like Colonel Sanders, and he's like preaching preaching the Bible or something. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? And they just didn't know. They didn't know what. No, this guy has he's like talking about some long tradition. He was like the big record collector guy, right?
Yes, he was. He also, I think, worked for Slash Records. That's how we met him. He was an interviewer. And
Right.
we went to Madame Wong's one afternoon and sat down when, they weren't exactly open, but we sat at a table and he interviewed the band, the Alvin brothers mostly. But his band they were hugely popular in LA, but they were even more so in I think France, New York, like you said. They had a bigger draw there, but people loved them in Los Angeles for sure.
So what was like living in Downey like in the 50s and 60s? Like what was it like? Was there anything going on there?
No, not much. It was a suburb, post-war suburb, a lot of kids. So that's what was going on. And, I just happened to meet the kids. We all liked the same music. There weren't very many of us, but so that was, the Alvin brothers, Bill Bateman, Gene Taylor, and a couple of guys in North Downey. And we were just this small group of, it was mostly blues music that we liked, but it was, Americana for sure. And, we would go, and then somebody in our little gang would buy a Hank Williams record. So we'd all be into Hank Williams, for the next couple of weeks or month. And then, we'd jump into jazz and then go back to blues, rockabilly. Phil took a road trip with my brother down to Louisiana. And every time they'd pull over to get gas or whatever, they'd go to thrift shops and my brother would buy, crazy artwork and clothing. But Phil would be combing through the records. And I think that's where he found Crazy Baby, which is a song that we had a lot of success with. And
you mentioned in another interview that you saw Count Basie Orchestra in Downey real early on. When did that happen?
I can't tell you the year, but it was probably, I want to say, mid-70s, and his big band came to the Performing Arts Center, and it was one of those shows you had to go see, whether you liked him or not, because frickin' Count Basie's in your town. And I don't know if it was free, but back then it didn't cost much money to go anywhere. So cost something. It was great, but it was so cool because it was a sit down theater, but you could get up and walk right to the bandstand. You could stand, you could practically touch, Count Basie's piano, or, forget the drummer he had, guy with the last name Jones. I think they all had Jones as a last name back then, Sonny Joe Jones, if I'm not mistaken. But man, what a drum set. It was beautiful. It was a Brett Champagne Swirl drum set.
So you guys, rockabilly was sort of there, but it seems like you guys were more into T-Bone Walker, Sonny Terry. There was some
yeah, for sure.
There was some association with Dwight Yoakam real early on, or
no, I can't remember when we hooked up with Dwight, but it was right around whenever the first Farm Aid was.
Okay, yeah, right.
1981 or 1982. I can't remember when the inaugural show was, but I remember Dwight was a pal of ours, and we were doing a lot of shows with him in that same time frame.
Yeah, it seemed like when the band started taking off and getting some momentum, you started being like the go-to, like Los Lobos plays a lot of shows where they open up for somebody. Like back then you open up for the Kinks, George Thorogood, the Boomtown Rats, played a show with Eric Clapton and Los Lobos. So you had like the same booking agent, or how did those come about? Like where you played with all these guys?
I can't tell you how that stuff comes about. I think we had such a good reputation, and we were so new and vibrant and doing the kind of music everyone liked, but not many people were playing, certainly not at the level we were. We were a really good addition to these bills that we joined in on. And I don't think we had the same, in some cases, I'm sure we did have the same booking agent, but I couldn't tell you.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't pay attention to that.
Oh yeah, you played some shows of Queen. I have a Queen record back here. Is that right? You opened for Queen?
Yeah, that was a fluke. We were playing in Hollywood. They came to town to start their tour, and they just happened to drop into the club where we were playing. They had their hit, on the radio at the time was kind of a rockabilly-esque,
right,
called A Crazy Little Thing Called Love.
Yeah,
and here we were. I don't know. They were sitting at a table. They liked us, and they made the decision then and there to have us join their tour. 7 shows on the West Coast.
There was some bands like these bands like the Stray Cats and the Levi and the Rock Cats, and were sort of like guys that seemed like they were more into dressing up. But you got there was other bands like Rank and File, True West, even like Gun Club, Jeffrey Lee Pierce, Tex and the Horsehead. Did you seem like that was like more where you guys were kind of the Blasters were about, those later bands?
Yeah, we loved anybody that could make music and was a rebel and had something to say. The Kinman brothers were allies of ours, good guys, always fun playing with them. And they had broken rank rank and file when they, stopped playing punk and started playing country. That was pretty unusual. Not all of their fans could wrap their head around that, but that was great for them and us.
Were you a fan of American Graffiti or the soundtrack, or was that kind of cornball?
Well, yeah, it was cornball, but it's I like that music. I remember our band. It was like early 80s, and we're checking into a hotel in Chicago, and the desk clerk looks at us and he goes, "Who are you guys? Sha-na-na?" And we're like, "Oh, how dare he say that, man? We're better than, they're not real. We are."
And yeah, another band you played with a lot was the Cramps. I mean, they were also big record collectors, and I mean,
Yeah.
they were, Lex Interior was a great showman, maybe I mean, at one time they were maybe like the best band in LA, because they were just so over the top. And I didn't know this till later, but they moved to LA around 81, I think. So I remember when I first started going to shows in 80, 81, the Cramps played almost like every 2 months or something. So like I saw them at the Roxy. I saw them play with Nick Cave one time. Some other at the Cuckoo's Nest.
Are you from Orange County?
Yeah, yeah.
So did you go to the oh God, the Cuckoo's Nest?
Yeah, the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, I might have seen you guys there. Yeah.
We played with the Cramps at the Cuckoo's Nest. That was a wild show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, the Cramps. I mean, because I missed the original mass scene, but I did go to the Starwood and Madame Wong's and some of the later things because I was like 16 years old in 1980, got my driver's license, so I was able to go to some shows and stuff. Or I had some friends that were a couple years older than me, and so yeah, I mean, yeah, and the Cramps seemed like they played a lot, and I would see, I saw X a lot, saw the Blasters a lot, I saw the Ventures play with the Go-Go's at the Starwood one time.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
There was like I like that music, and the instrumental music from the 60s, and that was
The Blasters opened for the Ventures at the Starwood also. I think we did 2 nights with them there.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, and the Ventures. Yeah, and yeah, it seemed like there was at the same time there was power pop and stuff, and it seemed like one band would take off, I guess they picked the Knack, and that was the band, I guess Tom Petty was a little bit, but I kind of like 2020.
Oh yeah, cool band.
Was a good band, and I guess the Plimsolls had some success, and then in the LA scene, the punk scene, there was a bunch of bands, and a lot of people thought X would be the band, and then the Go-Go's were the band that kind of took off. It just seems like the forces that happen, just one band gets the slot, okay, you're it, sometimes.
Yeah, well, there's only room for so many bands to rise to the top, and you count them on the fingers of one hand. There's a big pool of music and groups, and but not all of them go to the top. And yeah, X was I find it okay. It's not hard to believe, but I just think it's amazing how long X has been a band and making records and touring. It's pretty phenomenal, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and yeah, the stuff they put out now is good too. It's
yeah, it is good.
And yeah, I mean, and there seems there's people in LA that the X is the only band they ever go out to see anymore. It's oh, X is playing, I'm going. It's that's they've seen X 40, 50 times. I don't know. I don't think I've seen them that many times, but there's real loyal fans to X.
Oh, totally loyal. I go to a lot of X shows whenever they come into town. I do my best to go out and see them, but I see people at X shows that come in from all over the country to see them play. Or if X has a tour, and I've been on a few of these tours. The Blasters have opened a few tours with X, you'll see the same people every night because they want to see every X performance they can, and they brag about how many shows they've been to. It's a thing.
So let me ask, like, what kind of what kind of do you play the upright bass anymore? What kind of bass and what kind of bass amps do you use?
Okay, I started on electric bass. I used God, it was a 59 Precision P bass, really beautiful. And then it was stolen, and then I got a reissue from the Fender custom shop of a 59 Precision bass, which is the same bass. Well, it's just a great bass, and I do play upright bass, and I have for probably 25, 30 years or longer. It's an old K upright, just the standard 3/4 scale K. And recently, maybe as far back as 2, 3 years ago, I started using a newer bass guitar, which I really love, a tone bender bass guitar made locally in California. I use a Quilter amplifier, usually with a little B15 Ampeg cabinet, or if it's a big rock show, I have a bigger cabinet that with more speakers that plays louder.
Okay, yeah, I was just kind of wondering, and the Alvins, they also do they play Fenders and Fender Twins like most of the time?
No, just Dave Alvin's a big Fender guy. I think he only plays Fender guitars. Phil loves hollow body electrics, and I don't know what he last played. Maybe a Harmony Meteor might have been the guitar of choice.
So Phil, this is like his new record here, the Unsung Stories. Like, I went to Long Beach State, and I was like an English major. So I used to see Phil like about 86. I think he went back to school and like was studying math there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I used to see him and I go, would like, I was like 21 or 22 back then. I was like, oh, there's the guy from the Blast. Because he'd be taking classes. He would be in the by the library or something, kind of, because like I think the math department wasn't too far from the English department. So I would see him like all
Yeah.
the time and I go, oh, it's the guy with the blasters. What is he doing here? It was pretty
He,
funny.
he took classes and he also taught classes.
Yeah. And he was pretty good friends with Gerald Laughlin, I think, the poet.
Um, David
Yeah.
Alvin was
Oh,
Lachlan.
that was David. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think I have that book, Poetry Loves Poetry. So let's talk a little bit. How did we get to I mean, it's great that someone like this is coming out, the
Yeah.
blasters, because it's like all the best songs in one play. I mean, you've said sometimes that I mean, there's not a lot of turkeys, with the blasters. I mean, they have a lot of great songs. I mean, you can play like 3 hours because like you got so many good songs. But how did you get it to one disc, and when did you start thinking about putting it all together so people can like get this?
We've been working on this off and on for the last couple of years, and really, this one disc is the blasters, our career condensed into one disc. This label is going to eventually, over the next couple of years, put out everything we ever recorded on the the Slash Warner Brothers Dave Alvin era, and in a variety of formats, vinyl, CD, and I don't know, maybe digital, something or other, which of course will be on all the streaming services. But we've been talking about it, going back and forth, and we still are. This is a work in progress, getting this stuff out. But this disc, the mandatory, starts with the Rolling Rock years and then runs through the Slash Warner's years, and we plucked a lot of great songs off of those records.
Yeah. Did you? I mean, I know there's like a lot of bands are getting their rights back after like 30 years or whatever. Is that what happened? Like, it
Yeah,
kind
we
of
did.
it revert, like all you got control the masters and everything.
Right. You have to write a letter to the label that is in control, having the masters revert back. And it's not a big deal. It's a small process, but you have to do that, and you have um, to initiate that process. It doesn't happen automatically.
So so this is like a little taste of the greatest hits here, the mandatory, and then we'll have like the full catalog in the next couple of years. Like, is there any shows coming up, or what's going on? Are
No,
you,
no,
are you playing?
no shows planned yet. That's it's not that we're ruling out any shows, but we're just not capable of playing right now. And if we were to do something, we'd probably have to reformat who's in the band playing. It's feasible that Bill and I get together with Dave Alvin and pull something off. But David's so busy these days, and he's got his career. But I wouldn't rule that out. As far as Philip joining in, I think he's retired. I don't see him jumping back up on stage ever again.
So if people want to buy your records here, do you have a website, the blasters.com or this label here?
No, man, we have a website. I haven't looked at it in a couple of years. I don't think it's updated. It's best if you go to Liberation Hall, the record label. I'm sure they've got it for sale. And then your local record shop. Every town's got a good record store that sells CDs and records.
Okay, so I'll put some links in the description down here, like where they can buy these records. Like, who's that? That looks like oh yeah, who's that guy? Who's that guy that plays the saxophone there? What's is it?
Well, Lee Allen and
Yeah.
Steve Berlin are the saxophonists.
Yeah, yeah. They're on a lot of this record.
Yeah, where I live in Long Beach, we have a really great record store called Fingerprints, and
Right.
I know for sure
Okay.
they have the CD right now in stock.
Okay, so hey, if anybody here is listening to this, go down to Fingerprints or Amoeba or just check out Liberation Hall and theblasters.com and you can buy this and you know, check out some good music. I mean, the Blasters are one of the great LA bands.
Yeah, or go to a Dave
And,
Alvin show, and I know he'll have
oh,
it for sale
yeah,
at his
Dave. Oh,
merch.
he's selling them.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that for certain, but I bet he is.
So, like one final question. I mean, is there any new music that you're checking out that you're listening to that you can recommend?
I listen to streaming services, and they get to know what I like. I upload my music to Apple Music, and then and then it will generate a playlist based off of what I've been listening to. And if I like something, it selects for me. I will press like, and then it looks for more tunes like that. I can't tell you who I'm listening to currently that's
Okay.
contemporary, but I like everything from Sonic Youth to this new guy Charlie something or other,
Yeah.
country guy from
Yeah.
the West.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Are you playing with anybody besides the Blasters now?
I play a lot, but it's what I would call casual gigs, little blues bands stuck inside of a bar. I am playing with Bill Bateman and some friends in a group called the Blue Shadows, and it's a really good band, and it's pre-war blues for the better part. And the singer Javier writes a lot of great tunes. We're in fact playing the night before Thanksgiving at the 35th annual Battle of the Harmonicas in Long Beach at a
Alex Bar.
at
Where?
where? Oh,
TPII?
no, I forget the name of the bar, but it's in Long Beach, and you can
Okay.
look.
I'll figure it out. Okay. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah,
It's really good to talk to you. Anybody from the Blasters and like definitely enjoyed the music all these years and continue to enjoy it. It's still relevant, you know. Everybody buy this and, you know, check it out, you know. Thank you. Okay, let me
You're welcome.